Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet, and today, death in the office. I have had now 3 co-workers die while I have worked with them. Some might say working with me might be the kiss of death, but no. In two cases, these were circumstances that were relatively beyond their control, and in one case it was a suicide. Not really a lot to say about suicide. I think I've recorded a previous Short Funk associated with that experience. So the suicide fellow was in the UK. When I came to the US while I was working in Las Vegas, the company I was working for decided to subcontract a large portion of the work to India, and then demanded that a team, which was a server team, maintain Indian hours in order to work with the Indians, and then flew a majority of the team over to work with the Indians again. And through this process, one of the leads and someone who I'd worked with for quite some time developed pneumonia, and then on the flight back he had deep vein thrombosis, which basically went up into his lung and killed him. And it was quite extraordinary because one day he was there working, and the next day when we needed him the most, he was dead. And from my perspective, I think the suicide probably took more out of me, and that was also the first case of a fellow employee who had passed. But recently I heard that a fellow that I worked with relatively closely had died in a motorcycle accident. And it wasn't particularly edifying. I'd talked to him only a couple of days previously, sat next to him and joked with him through various things. I had a certain kinship with the guy because he was from the UK, and there are certain things that I know about the UK that I can put out there for humorous necessity in some regard. My perspective is, given the averages that I've seen so far, I will probably see another 5 to 10 co-workers die through my professional life. And it's rather curious because particularly when you deal with technology, you deal with permanency, you deal with circumstances where, software is always backed up and you're always moving towards something, and it always has this kind of life to it. And in contrast to this, through random accidents where people die or where people take their own lives, it just doesn't feel like software in some quite fundamental level. But as I've seen certain circumstances where people have passed in less than desirable terms, I can't really fault these circumstances aside from saying that they're just part of the world. One day we'll all not be here. And through this I felt a bit sorry, particularly for the gentleman's wife, but it's the nature of existence, and you just need to make the most of the time that you spend with people, because they may not always be there, and heaven knows, I probably won't be there for most of it either. Tom Barbalet in San Jose signing out.